So there's probably some questions that many of you might have, like why would I become Catholic again? After seeing all the problems. Well, it's more or less going back into theological research into demonology, because for months, I've been asking God, if Rome is your true church, please show me. And for months, I've had the same question. If the Catholic Church isn't the true church that Jesus himself established, then out of all the churches, Protestantism, Eastern Orthodoxy, Oriental Orthodoxy, and then the Assyrian Church of the East, why is the devil only focusing on the Catholic Church? And I know how demonology works. So I know why demons go after certain churches and institutions, and we even see this um, in the church of the first 1,000 years, which I obviously believe was Rome. In the writings, in the life, that Satan goes after those who are a threat to him and his kingdom, right? This is why when atheists ask exorcists, well, how come the devil isn't targeting me? Obviously, the exorcist tells them, because you're already damned, right? Because Satan conned you, fooled you. So if Rome wasn't the true church, on a metaphysical level, when it comes to demons, it doesn't make any sense why the devil would attack the Catholic Church in the way that um, he has, um, which goes into Freemasonry. Obviously, I can only say so much on that because of YouTube, but I'll just say this: there are writings from Pope Pius IX, Pope Leo XIII, Pope Saint Pius X, even all the way up to Venerable Pope Pius XII, writing letters, being concerned, because whether if you like it or not, the Vatican is the oldest intelligence agency on the planet, and it is, and they're quite good at the job. They were given information, even up to Saint Pope Paul VI, and being concerned that homosexuals, Freemasons, and communists have infiltrated the ranks of the Catholic Church. Now, I was asked a few days ago in a private Discord call, and I found this question to be absolutely retarded on so many levels. Why would the Freemasons infiltrate the church since the church condemns Freemasonry? That's a stupid question, right? Because my counter would be, well, why would the Soviet spies infiltrate America and in Hollywood, which is a well known fact that they infiltrated Hollywood to push socialism, when America condemns socialism? Do you understand on how stupid that question is, right? The whole point of infiltration is to destroy the very thing that you're infiltrating, because that thing is a threat. At the 15th degree of Freemasonry, um, yeah, it's either the 15th or the 16th, they take an oath to kill the Pope and to destroy the Catholic Church. Back in the 1920s, there was a march that was organized by the Masonic Lodge of Italy, and they marched through the streets of Rome saying, "Down with the Pope, down with the Catholic Church, down with the Pope, down with the Catholic Church." And there are photos and there are records of this. Even one of our own saints, Saint Maximili Kolbe, he even recorded this. So, understanding on how Freemasonry works, again, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If Eastern Orthodoxy, was the true church, you would think that they would do the same assault that they're doing on the Roman Catholic Church, but in the Eastern Orthodox Church. Now, I'm not denying that the Zionists in the Freemasons haven't infiltrated the ranks of Eastern Orthodoxy, because they have, but they're not attacking it on the same level, because there's a certain degree of truth here. If Eastern Orthodoxy has partial truths, which it does, but not the full truth, it would make sense why the devil wouldn't be attacking them as much as like the epicenter of the truth itself, right? Um, which let me, because now we're moving towards the historical side of this. Let me share this. Let me. There we go. Now this is a great website. At the Council of Ephesus, right here, it's quite clear that the papal claims are made and the council accepts them. Us Catholics get bashed for saying, well, doctrine evolves, while you have people like Jay Dyer taking that completely out of context. The Catholic position that I verified with my own priest is this, that the papal office has always been there. The office of St. Peter and the papacy itself has always been there. But the understanding of that office evolved over time. A prime example to compare this to, okay, is iconography. You will have people like Jay Dyer saying, well, iconography is self-evident in the first millennium, but it isn't. There's not a single church father that ever mentions it, okay? Even to the early church fathers of 500 AD, okay, there was no mention of it. No saint practiced it. They take certain details of these councils and then they nitpick it and say, aha, it's proof here. No, it's not. There's not a single church father that ever wrote about iconography. The church never practiced it. Iconography evolved, and I'm fine with that because even I practice iconography with my icons, and I'm a Roman Catholic, okay? So the evolution of doctrine or dogma, as it were, is perfectly fine because guess what? St. Mark was the first iconographer, right? There was no iconography in the days of the apostles until later on when St. Mark developed it, okay? So the understanding of the papal office evolved in the understanding of that office over time. But Peter and his successors has always had primacy over the entire church, including supremacy. That supremacy, again, evolved in the understanding of that supremacy. And we see this throughout the church, right? Look at Constantinople I. Constantinople I was convened without the Bishop of Rome. People go to that as how I did and said, aha, this is proof that this understanding of the papal understanding of the office of St. Peter was not there. The thing about that is it was there, but the understanding of the office was not the same understanding as what we see here at the Council of Ephesus, Session 2 and Session 3, right? Because Constantinople I dogmatized the Trinity without the communion of the Bishop of Rome. Obviously, when the Bishop of Rome came back into communion, he accepted Constantinople I. Skip to the Council of Ephesus, and we see the papal claims, right? So we see an evolution of the understanding of the office of Peter. Because this same understanding, parts of it were at Constantinople I, but not all of it, right? And we see this. So the understanding of the office evolved. Like how iconography evolved, like how many things evolved during the course of the church. And that's fine because the church is likened unto a baby, right? The birth of the church was back in the days of Pentecost. Yeah, so obviously, like we see things develop in church history. And there's this belief among the Orthodox that things have always been this way. And that's not true, right? Things evolved. I mean, we can clearly, like the papal claims right here. I'll start right here. There is no doubt, and in fact, it has been known in all ages that the Holy and most blessed Peter, Prince and head of the apostles, pillar of the faith, and foundation of the Catholic Church, received the keys of the kingdom from our Lord Jesus Christ, the Savior and Redeemer of the human race, and that to him was given the power of loosing and binding sins, who down even to this down even today and forever, both lives and judges in his successors. It's quite clear that the papal claims are here that the Pope of Rome was given the binding and loosing power over the entire church, right? So this understanding evolved over time. The doctrine itself did not, because the doctrine has always been there. And we even see this in Pope Clement I. And we have people like Ubi Petrus that, again, he has a habit of straw manning and lying and taking things out of context. And a lot of the Orthodox apologists do this. A lot. Especially Jay Dyer. Now, Jay Dyer is a good source on politics. He's a good source for like the globalist agenda. But when it comes to Catholicism, he's not that good, right? Because he doesn't understand how the magisterium works, and he doesn't, right? And that brings me to my final point, which will conclude this video. Vatican I does not claim that it was in the early church, nor does it claim that the office at that time in that understanding was in the early church. Vatican I, when talking about how Rome can't defect, right? That the Roman See will remain undefiled until the end. What is that talking about? It's talking about the church itself. That the magisterium can never teach error because of the divine promise that Christ gave to Peter, right? Now, if that can be disproven, then you disproven Catholicism. But as we just read, that was even present at the Council of Ephesus, which the Orthodox Church affirms. So this binding and loosing, St. Peter had. And Vatican I is clear on this, right? So when we look through that document, which dogmatizes papal infallibility, that it addresses the same beliefs that the Orthodox Church held in the first millennium. We have saints, even from the 300s, talking about how if you separate yourself from the chair of Saint Peter, you are a schismatic and outside of communion of the true church. Whoever separates them from the chair of Saint Peter is a schismatic. Okay, we have saints with quotes such as that. One I'm thinking about. Let me because it's some off the wall name. Let's see. Saint Uptasis of I can't pronounce that, but I'll post that here. This was the saint that made that quote. In fact, I'm not showing you this because it's on Discord, so it's in a private message. In 367, you cannot then deny that you know that upon Peter first in the city of Rome was bestowed the episcopal cathedra on which he sat, the head of all the apostles, for which reason he was called Cephas, that is, this one cathedra, unity should be preserved by all. Neither do the apostles proceed individually on their own, and anyone who would presume to set up another chair in opposition to that single chair would by that very fact be a schismatic and a sinner. Recall then the origins of your chair, those of you who wish to claim for yourselves the title of the Holy Church. Again, we have saints that believed in papal supremacy, that being one of them. And there are also others, other historical proofs. Um, like here by Pope Leo the First. Although bishops have a common dignity, they are not all the same rank. So that kind of puts a damper on the claim of the Orthodox Church. Even among the most blessed apostles, though they were alike in honor, there was a certain, distinction of power. All were equal in being chosen, but it was given to one to be preeminent over the others. So today, through the bishops, the care of the universal church would coverage in the one see of Peter, and nothing should ever be at odds with this head. I can keep going, but just that alone should show that this understanding of the papal office did develop over time in its understanding. But the core of that office has always been in the church. And I just showed a few examples. I cited a saint that the Orthodox Church venerates, if I'm not mistaken, because, I mean, he he was alive during the 300s. So just because there are incidences where it seems that the Bishop of Rome did not have any special charism like at Constantinople one, you can't um, you can't nick nitpick those, because there are other cases where it disproves that, right? So I'll end with me addressing what has happened to the Catholic Church since the 60s. St. Paul talks about how there has to be a great apostasy that needs to happen first, which then when that happens, the second coming will then happen, or will come after, rather. Matthew 16 states that the gates of hell will not prevail against the church, which is true. So the consensus of the Holy Fathers, which the Orthodox would definitely agree with, is that the church will apostatize in the sense of leaving the Christian faith. However, the true church will always remain visible until the end of time. So do I believe that? Yes, I do. I believe the Roman Catholic Church is apostatizing, and I do. Um, Again, this goes back to Vatican One, how the church will how the church will remain undefiled until the end, right? Yeah, that's talking about error. That the church can never authoritatively teach error. There's also misconception with ordinary and extraordinary magisterium. Some papal encyclicals do not fall under that binding and loosing power that the successor of St. Peter has. So there needs to be a distinction. Like Mortalium Animals, I found out it's actually not binding. It's not binding at all. It's not even a authoritative document. It is a suggestion. So how Jay Dyer and Dyer writes, which again, I'm a fan of Jay Dyer when it comes to politics and this one world order thing, because he's dead on that stuff. But when it comes to this, he strawmans our position and he either lies about it or he is interpreting these in a very incorrect way. Mortality of animals is not binding, nor is it a authoritative document. It's a suggestion, right? So to go back to the letters of the popes, talking about Freemasonry, so many of the modern day Catholic apologists hate to sound like Jay Dyer here, but are normies. They don't know what's actually going on. My you know, the Pope of the Catholic Church is in bed with the same people who want a one world government. I've shown this before, and as a Catholic, I'm not going to lie about that because that's not Christ-like. The Vicar of Christ on earth is in bed with the same people that want to usher in the mark of the beast. I'm not going to cope about that. That's true. Pope Francis wrote a document on climate change, but that document was for the WEF, the World Economic Forum. So this is the World Economic Forum's climate change agenda was drafted by Pope Francis, and he's on board with the 2030 agenda. I've shown this. Well, I removed all my videos, so can't see. But if you want to see it, just let me know and I'll show it. So I'm not going to cope about that. Yeah, that's true. So do I still think that the Petrine charism is protecting Pope Francis? I do, and I don't have the authority to state publicly whether if he's an anti-pope. I can hold my personal opinions, but until the College of Cardinals come together to excommunicate him, I have no authority to say publicly that the chair of St. Peter is sedevacante. So those are the reasons why I came back to Rome. Yes, I realize all the bad stuff that has happened. Like, again, I condemn CC 1 and 2. I firmly believe it's very scandalous. However, we can see the Catholic Church being taken in a certain direction that the people at the WEF are taking it. And again, those are the same people that infiltrated Holy Mother Church a little over 200 years ago. Again, we have writings from popes just as recent, like from St. Pope Paul VI, knowing that Freemasons have infiltrated the church. This is not a mindless conspiracy theory, and I'm willing to debate anyone on this. Out of everything I know, through UFOs, through weird phenomenon, through philosophy, through Catholicism, through Orthodoxy, through church history, the number one thing I know more about than any of those put together is Freemasonry. I've spent most of my life researching Freemasonry. Okay, so I'm willing to debate anyone on this, and I don't care on how many subscribers they have, because I can prove to you when the Freemasons and the homosexuals and the communists started to infiltrate your church. I can also pinpoint to where the CIA started to co-opt my church into their agenda. No, the charism of St. Peter, to answer Jay Dyer's question, does not apply to the Central Intelligence Agency. It applies to the successor of St. Peter. Do I believe Pope Francis is the last pope? I believe that there's a strong possibility, because the St. Malachi prophecy certainly seems to be true. Again, I could be wrong, but either way, it's not my judgment to say publicly if I think that he's an anti-pope. I can have my personal opinions, which I'm not going to share here, but I can't publicly authoritatively state that he's an anti-pope because I have no authority to do that. So yeah, those are the reasons why I came back to Catholicism. It would make far more sense on a metaphysical level and on a spiritual level that Catholicism is true than Eastern Orthodoxy. And I'm not using the size of both churches as an argument, but Jesus himself, our blessed Lord, told us to go forth and preach the gospel. And last time I checked, Eastern Orthodoxy barely evangelizes. Yes, they evangelize, but they barely do it. I mean, hardly anyone in the West has has heard about Orthodoxy, and then they quote Saint Herman of Alaska. Saint Herman of Alaska did a great job at missionary work, but stop the cope. The Orthodox Church barely evangelizes, so they have failed the Great Commission. While the Catholics, regardless if they spread due to colonialism or not, it doesn't matter. The fact is, everyone on the planet, for the most part, knows about the Catholic Church. Everyone. And in Scripture, it tells us to go forth, right? Once the gospel is preached to the whole world, then the end will come. Those are the words of Christ. And again, last time I checked, the Eastern Orthodox Church has failed at the Great Commission. So, if you have any questions, please ask me down below. I'm obviously going to do videos on Catholicism and defending it, but I'm not going to cope or lie about it like how some do. God bless.